Okay, so I'm going to be hand tinting this photogravure. Just getting some of this red watercolour. I'm using watercolour on oil-based inks. And we'll just get a feel for it. Now this is probably too dark, maybe a little bit too wet, but it is very easy to modify. I've just dried the brush a little bit on a tissue, or you can use a blotter. And I'm just going to do this as like an initial coat of this just red, which is fairly translucent with the water. It's just a wash. Crucial thing with hand tinting is to remember that it is the word tint. The oil-based ink of the print rejects the water, so it is going into the paper where there is no ink, so we're still able to see through the areas. So at the moment I'm doing all the skin tones, and we've got the leg here as well, so we might need a little bit more water. So it's very easy to adjust. You see I put on too much there. So what we'll do is we'll just take a clean brush just with water, and we start to spread it going across both legs. You can see it's not sitting on the ink, on the black ink of the photogravure. And we can just blot it in. And you can see I've come across the shots a little bit. Yeah. So what we can do is take a clean brush with just water, wet it, and it just lifts off again. And if I really want to, like on this leg here, I can take the tissue and just blot a little bit. Yeah. So that just lifts off a little bit more. And that's the first coat down. I'm just putting some water to spread any marks as well. So we want it nice and smooth. If you can see brush strokes, it's too much. That's the first coat done. So now I'm going to repeat the process with a second coat. I find it's a lot better to just build up the coats rather than put on too much to begin with. So now we can maybe use a little bit of the light in the photo to build. This photo was taken an incredibly hot day. This is one of the shinty prints that I did for Sky Camanach. Incredibly hot day. The girls in the ladies team are replicating a photo of Sky Camanach from about 1880. So now we start to just feed in a little bit more colour to the areas where we think it would work well. And again, just on the legs, second coat. You can see from the photo where it probably should be darker, the way the light is landing on the photo. So we'll just build it in these areas, taking a little bit. That looks a little bit clumsy. We can see the lines, the joints, the joints. But now we take just a wet brush and separate it out until it becomes pretty smooth. It's just gently darker in some areas, more intense in the colour rather than others. So that's the red done. It really is just a tint. So now we're going on to this tint the shirt. This is a larger area, so plenty of water on, and it's a blue obviously. Sky blue, literally, right, for Sky Camanach. Tricky bit is coming down. You can see I'm not having to use a tiny brush because it's fairly easy to correct errors. So I find it a bit, rather than a tiny brush, I tend to use a slightly larger brush than you would think, and it just allows a nice flow of the water and the watercolour. And again, it is just a tint. I mean, really, we've got a tone on here from the photogravure, so really, it's not going on to white. It's going on to a light tone. So it's picking up. If you were to magnify this, you would see that there's a tiny dot structure in the photogravure, so it's in between the dots is where the blue is landing, and it's giving us this tint. So again, similar to before, we'll probably give it a couple of coats to get that blue off the top. Now in a larger area like this, you might find the paper will bulge up a little bit, swell with the liquid going onto it. Remember, it's got oil-based ink on it, and in this case it's already been shrunk by the stretching process after it was printed, the intaglio printing. So we're asking quite a lot of the paper. This is Fabriano Artistico, which is a printmaking and watercolour paper. So it's going to take the abuse quite well. It'll swell up and then it should settle back down again after it's completed. That's the first coat of the blue done. So now we're going to go on with the second blue coat. You can see the colour starting to build. That's maybe just a little bit too much for me. So I'm just going to take this round, spread it a little bit. So you don't need to panic. Even after it's dried with a little bit of water, you can move it around. It's a nice thing with this. The good thing with the photogravure is the ability to use watercolour, which is nice and straightforward. Photographers with conventional film would be using dyes, maybe a little bit trickier, but the watercolour is very nice and nice and straightforward to use. The higher quality of the watercolour, the better the results. Same with everything. So in these prints, I'm only selectively colouring. So really, on each of these players, we will have the blue of the shirt, the skin tones, and the stick, the Camins, shinty sticks, which I'll do next. So on the Camin, I'm going to use this warm yellow to start with. And it really is just a tint. It's too much, far too bright. So we'll just run that. A bit more down there. These are made from ash. And there is tape on them, so I don't have to paint the whole thing, it's just this section here. And this yellow is too sort of acidic and zappy to begin with, but like I say, we're just putting it down as a first coat, and it really is, like I said before, a tint. It's a good example here of the laminate and the wood can still be seen through the watercolour. So now we're going to go to this slightly deeper ochre, which we'll put out some here and just get a tiny amount going. And this can be, oh, that's way too much. So again, I'm just drying and blotting the brush and then sneaking it in. So it just deepens the colour in the shadow areas It's just tiny amounts. Really, again, too much. It's good to see it though, because we just, again, with a drier brush, spread it around. We take a little bit more away again, so we regain that translucency, but just enough. Take a wee bit of colour at the ends before the tape. And I think we're pretty much done. So hopefully you can see the contrast between the finished tinted player and the rest of the girls in the team at the moment. So they'll all end up the same. And then what I like to do after it is maybe print a glaze, maybe either oil-based extender, maybe with a slight warming tone, or even screen print ink over the top. It almost acts like a varnish. It kind of richens, deepens the colour a touch, makes it feel more integrated into the print. But the secret is the word tint. It really is not much, and you can see that there's been very little watercolour put down there, but the colour just comes alive.